If you're ever bitten by a venomous snake or stranded in a desert, the survival tips you learned as a kid will straight up get you killed. Sucking out venom with your mouth will cause immediate blood infection. And drinking cactus water? Your kidneys will fail from the toxicity. Today, we are breaking open 5 deadly myths that 90% of people confidently bet their lives on. Here's the thing about survival myths. They don't feel like myths. They feel like facts. You've heard them so many times, from Hollywood movies, from school, from your uncle who went camping once in 1987, that they've become hardwired into your brain as absolute truth. And that's exactly what makes them dangerous. When your brain is flooded with adrenaline and cortisol in a real emergency, you don't stop to Google. You act on the first thing that comes to mind. And if that first thing is wrong, that confidence doesn't save you, it buries you. Psychologists call this schema-driven behavior, the tendency to act on pre-stored mental scripts without questioning them, especially under extreme stress. The more confident you feel about a piece of information, the less likely you are to challenge it when it matters most. So today, we're breaking down 5 survival myths that are so deeply embedded in popular culture, most people would bet their lives on them. Some people have. They lost. Before we expose the myths, let's talk about why these things stick so stubbornly in our heads. Because it's not stupidity, it's actually a built-in feature of how your brain handles stress. In 1956, psychologist George Miller published his landmark paper showing that the human brain can only hold about 7 chunks of information in working memory at once. And under stress, that number drops even further. When danger hits, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for critical thinking and fact-checking, essentially goes partially offline. Your amygdala takes the wheel. What fills that vacuum? Procedural memory, habits, scripts, things you've rehearsed or repeated so many times they feel automatic. Think of your brain in a crisis like a stressed-out driver who suddenly realizes their GPS has lost signal. Rather than pull over and think, they default to the last route they remember, even if that route leads straight off a cliff. A 2009 study by cognitive psychologist Gary Klein on naturalistic decision-making found that experienced first responders don't actually run through logical pros and cons in emergencies. They pattern match. They find the first option that seems good enough based on past experience, and they go with it. The problem? If your pattern library is full of Hollywood myths, that's the playbook your brain runs. That's the mechanism. Now let's meet the myths. Myth 1. Suck out snake venom. As we mentioned at the start, this myth sticks because it feels intuitive. Poison is in the wound, the mouth removes things. Therefore, problem solved. That surface-level reasoning is exactly what gets people killed. Here's what actually happens. Snake venom isn't just sitting in a pool under your skin. Within seconds of a bite, it binds to tissue and enters your lymphatic system. There is literally nothing to suck out. Furthermore, when you put your mouth on that wound, you introduce bacteria directly into the bloodstream of someone whose immune system is about to face extreme stress. You've now given them a deadly combo, infection on top of envenomation. Medical professionals are unanimous. Cut-and-suck treatment is not just ineffective, it actively worsens outcomes. The real answer? Immobilize the limb, keep it below heart level, and get to a hospital. Full stop. Myth 2. Drink cactus water. When dehydrated, this one sounds like a classic desert cheat code. You're dying of thirst, there's a giant plant full of liquid, obviously, you chop it open and drink. Except cactus water isn't water. It's a thick, alkaline, highly acidic fluid. And most species, like the saguaro, contain oxalic acid and other toxic compounds. Your kidneys have to work overtime to process it. The result? You vomit, you lose critical electrolytes, and you end up far more dehydrated than before. The U.S. Army Survival Manual explicitly warns against drinking cactus pulp. The only exception, and it is a very narrow one, is the barrel cactus, and even then, it causes severe diarrhea in most people, which again accelerates dehydration. This myth persists because it satisfies a deep cognitive bias called effort justification. We assume that if something is available and we worked hard to get it, it must be the solution. My 3. Play dead with a bear. Here's where it gets nuanced, and where half knowledge becomes lethal. Playing dead with a grizzly bear during a predatory attack, you will die. Playing dead during a defensive charge, it can work. The problem is that most people don't know the difference, and play dead has been oversimplified into a universal rule that completely ignores context. With a black bear, America's most common species, wildlife biologists state that you should never play dead. Black bear attacks are almost always predatory, meaning the bear has already decided you are food. Playing dead tells it you're ready to be eaten. Instead, fight back aggressively, make yourself look large, and shout. The National Park Service's guidelines explicitly separate the 2 species and 2 attack types, advice that has been collapsed into one misleading soundbite for generations. Why does this oversimplification happen? Because nuance doesn't travel well. Complex, conditional information gets flattened every time it's repeated. Psychologists call this the telephone effect. Repeated transmission of information strips away caveats and qualifications, leaving behind a simple, memorable, and entirely wrong rule. So how do you actually use this information before you're lostest in the woods? In emergency prep, the research on schema-driven behavior gives us an actionable solution. You can't override instinct in the heat of the moment, but you can change what your instincts are preloaded with. If you practice the correct behavior, even just mentally rehearsing it, you create a competing script that can override the myth when it counts. Studies on mental rehearsal in athletes and military personnel show that visualization of correct procedures reduces error rates under pressure by up to 45%. So, take 10 minutes and actually look up real survival protocols. Read them more than once. Picture yourself doing it. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between imagining an action and experiencing it. That's neuroscience, not self-help. My 4. Lightning. Lie flat on the ground. This one comes from a very intuitive place. You want to make yourself the lowest possible target. But lying flat on the ground massively increases your surface contact with it, which is exactly how ground current kills you. Lightning can travel horizontally through the soil for long distances after striking nearby. The correct technique, per the National Weather Service, is the lightning crouch. Feet together. Crouch low, minimize ground contact, do not lie flat, and stay away from isolated tall objects. In a real storm, the people who lie flat are exposing far more body surface to lethal ground current than the people who look silly crouching. My 5. Drinking alcohol warms you. Up this is the classic ski lodge myth, the brandy barrel on the St. Bernard's collar. And it feels true. Alcohol makes you feel warm instantly. That feeling is physiologically real. Alcohol causes your peripheral blood vessels to dilate, pushing warm blood toward your skin. What's actually happening, though, is that your core body temperature is dropping. You are redistributing heat away from your vital organs out to your extremities. In cold environments, that is the exact setup for hypothermia, not protection from it. A 1993 study in the Journal of Studies on Alcohol found that subjects who consumed alcohol before cold exposure reached hypothermic temperatures significantly faster than those who didn't, despite reporting feeling warmer. This is a perfect example of the gap between subjective experience and objective reality, and in survival situations, that gap kills. Here's what most people miss about survival myths. And this is the part that genuinely surprised me. The most dangerous thing about these myths isn't the bad advice itself. It's the confidence they generate. There's a psychological phenomenon called the Dunning-Kruger effect, but what gets less attention is its inverse. When you believe you're prepared, you actually reduce your own vigilance. You stop scanning for new information. You stop asking questions. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman describes this as cognitive ease, the comfortable, effortless feeling of knowing something. It feels good. It feels safe. And it's the most dangerous mental state you can be in before an emergency. In a 2018 study on wilderness rescue operations, researchers found that a disproportionate number of rescue subjects had prior wilderness experience. Not beginners, experienced outdoors people. Their confidence led them to take risks that first-timers were actually too cautious to take. They didn't prepare as carefully. They didn't map out their routes. They trusted their gut, and their gut was running on bad firmware. The survival myth doesn't just give you wrong information. It gives you the feeling that you don't need more information. That's the real killer. The most dangerous thing you can carry into a survival situation isn't the wrong tool, it's the wrong certainty. Which of these myths surprised you most? Or which one have you been confidently wrong about for years? Drop it in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious, and I promise there's no judgment. These myths fool everyone. If this video just saved your life future self, make sure to hit that like button and share this with the people you care about. It might save theirs too. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.